I always knew my family was good at hiding secrets, but nothing prepared me for the performance that unfolded after my father's death. At the will reading, my sister, Charlotte, arrived draped in black silk and superiority, shooting me that condescending smirk she's perfected since childhood. She thought she'd won. After all, she was always the favorite, always the one who could do no wrong, while I was the mistake that kept ruining the family portrait, but our father's final clause didn't just shift the inheritance, it detonated a truth none of us were ready to face. And in that single moment, the roles reversed, her smirk vanished, and I finally understood what he had meant in his last letter to me. This story isn't about revenge. It's about truth. And how far some people will go to bury it, I hadn't seen Charlotte in over 2 years, but I knew that walk anywhere. Controlled. Regal. The kind of stride that announces, I've already won, before the game even begins. She entered the lawyer's office dressed like morning was a designer statement, black silk dress, delicate lace gloves, and her signature red lipstick, untouched by grief. She gave me that smirk. The one that said, you never belonged here. I didn't flinch. I was never good at pretending. My father's death had been quiet, unexpected. A stroke in his sleep. The kind of ending that doesn't allow for closure or confrontation. Not that I ever got much of either growing up. He raised Charlotte and me in the same house but not in the same world. She got piano lessons, private schools, his full attention. I got silence, side glances, and an unspoken list of things I was always doing wrong. The lawyer, Mr. Halloway, sat behind a massive oak desk, ancient and polished, like everything else in my father's world. He greeted us with the stiffness of someone used to family tension. Thank you both for coming. Your father's last will and testament has a few specific instructions. Charlotte crossed her legs slowly, her smirk growing. Let me guess. Everything to the eldest daughter, as expected. I watched her. She always needed to say it first. Claim the throne before anyone else had the chance to imagine it wasn't hers. Halloway adjusted his glasses. Not exactly. A flicker of confusion crossed her face, but she covered it quickly. I stayed silent. That was something my father accidentally taught me well. Silence makes people nervous. He began reading the standard legal formalities, most of which blurred into background noise. Then came the list of items. To Charlotte Elizabeth Alden, Halloway read, I leave the estate in Belmere Park, the vintage Bentley, and my stock portfolio, with the condition that she fulfills the clause described at the end of this will. She sat straighter. Condition? What condition? Halloway raised a hand. We'll get to that. He turned the page. To Isla Marie Alden, he said, my full name, rare from anyone's lips, I leave the contents of the safe deposit box at Wexley Bank, the sum of $30,000 in unmarked cash, and the letters marked for her eyes only. Charlotte let out a small laugh. Letters? Seriously? That's your inheritance? Some sentimental scribbles? I didn't respond. I couldn't. The cash was strange, but the letters? I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Halloway closed the folder. Now for the final clause. The room fell quiet. I heard the second hand of the grandfather clock ticking behind me. Something in the air shifted. In order for Charlotte Elizabeth Alden to receive her inheritance, he read slowly, she must, within 30 days of this reading, publicly acknowledge the incident that took place on the night of August 19, 2011, at the Alden family estate, in writing, and issue a signed confession to be stored in our legal archives. My stomach dropped. Charlotte turned pale. She stood abruptly. What the hell is this? Halloway didn't flinch. It's your father's final request. Without compliance, all assets assigned to you will be legally transferred to your sister. Silence thick electric. What incident? I asked, my voice lower than I expected. Charlotte's eyes locked on mine, and for the first time in years, she looked afraid. she didn't smirk again, and just like that, I knew, she remembered exactly what happened that night, and so did he. I was 16 the night everything changed. Remember the sound of the rain first, heavy, relentless, as if the sky had been holding its breath for weeks. The Alden estate always looked haunted in a storm, but that night it felt like it. The lights flickered. The house smelled like aged whiskey and mahogany. And there was yelling. Sharp, not loud. The kind that slices, not booms. Charlotte had been 17 then. Already cold, already calculating. But that night, she wasn't just cruel. She was terrified. She dragged me into the study by the wrist, nails biting into my skin. You didn't see anything, she hissed. You were asleep. You heard nothing. Got it? Her mascara was running. Her dress was ripped near the hem. And her hands, I'll never forget her hands, were shaking and red. Not with cold, with blood. I didn't ask questions. Not because I was afraid of her, but because I was afraid of the truth I already suspected. In our house, silence was the safest answer. Back in the lawyer's office, I watched Charlotte pace like a trapped animal. That calm elegance had cracked. And underneath was someone I almost didn't recognize. You can't be serious, she snapped at Mr. Holloway. That clause can't be legal. He was clearly manipulated. He looked unbothered. Your father revised his will with full cognitive clarity, in the presence of 2 independent witnesses. He also left behind a video recording of his reasoning. Would you like to view it now? She froze. I stepped forward. I would. Charlotte's eyes widened. No. Not here. Mr. Holloway gave a small nod, as if he'd expected her panic. Then I suggest you both return tomorrow morning. I'll prepare the recording. On the way out, Charlotte grabbed my arm. Gone was the smirk, the superiority, the smug little princess act. Her grip was desperate. Don't open that box, she whispered. Whatever's in there, just let it die with him. I pulled away. Too late. Because the moment I left the office, I went straight to Wexley Bank. The safe deposit box wasn't impressive, plain metal, clean, cold. But when I opened it, my breath caught. Inside were 3 things: a stack of old photographs, many of which had been burned around the edges, a sealed envelope with my name written in his sharp, familiar handwriting. A USB drive. I took everything and left without looking back. I didn't go home. I drove to a cheap motel on the outskirts of town and locked the door behind me. No one knew where I was. Not even Charlotte. Especially not Charlotte. I opened the envelope first. The letter was short. No apologies. No explanations, just this: Isla, I should have protected you. But protecting you meant destroying everything else. I chose wrong. What happened that night, you weren't supposed to see it. But now you must understand it. Watch the video. Then decide if silence still serves you. Dottie sat there for a long time, staring at his words. Not because they moved me, but because they were the first honest thing he'd ever given me. Eventually, I plugged in the USB, the screen lit up. Static at first. Then, the unmistakable interior of the study. It was security footage. The date stamped, August 19, 2011. Charlotte entered frame first. She was crying, but she wasn't alone, there was a man with her. Not our father. A stranger. And then, in less than 20 seconds, everything spiraled out of control. I watched her push him. I watched him fall. I watched blood bloom across the floor, and I watched my father walk in, pause, and close the door behind him. Watched that video 3 times before I stopped pretending I didn't know what I'd seen. Each time, I kept hoping for some detail that would change the story, something that would make it look like an accident, like Charlotte hadn't meant to do it. But there was no doubt. No stumble. No struggle. She pushed him, and when he didn't get up, she looked around wildly, and then my father appeared. Calm. Silent. Not shocked. Not even surprised, I paused the frame. My father's face looked like it always did, unreadable. But I knew him too well. That blank expression wasn't confusion. It was calculation. He didn't rush to check for a pulse. He didn't call for help. He stepped over the body, he whispered something to Charlotte, and then he picked up the man's phone, walked to the fireplace, and threw it in. When I understood. That's when it all snapped into place, the sudden silence after that night. The way Charlotte never got questioned. The way the police never came. The way I was sent to boarding school just 3 weeks later without warning, and no one ever mentioned that night again. They buried it together, but I had seen it, and now, I was the only one left with the truth. I didn't sleep that night. Read the rest of the letters, 5 in total. My father had written them in stages over the years. Regret flickered through his words, but never fully bloomed into remorse. He didn't confess because he felt guilty. He confessed because he knew he was running out of time. He didn't protect me. He protected Charlotte, always, until this. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't call her. I let her sit with her own paranoia. And the next morning, I returned to the lawyer's office, USB in hand. Charlotte was already there. Her eyes were rimmed with red. Her hair wasn't as perfectly arranged as usual. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Mr. Holloway set the video to play on the large screen in his office. Charlotte watched it in silence. No denial. No begging. Just stillness. When the footage ended, he turned to her. This is your father's evidence. Will you fulfill the clause? Charlotte didn't answer right away. She stood up, walked to the window, and for a second, I thought maybe she was going to confess, that she'd break down and do the right thing. Instead, she turned back toward us, chin raised. I want to challenge the will. Holloway raised a brow. On what grounds? Emotional coercion. This was a calculated attack to disgrace me. He was dying. He was unstable. My sister manipulated him. I didn't even flinch. I was 16. She ignored me. There's no proof that confession clause is legally enforceable. Holloway looked unfazed. Then we'll let the courts decide. Charlotte stormed out. But before she did, she leaned in, her voice low, venomous. If I go down, Isla, I'm not going alone. I should have been afraid. I should have wondered what she meant. But I wasn't. Because I knew something she didn't. I still hadn't shown the final file. There was one more video. One I hadn't watched yet. Waited until nightfall again, back at the motel, shaking as I plugged in the USB. One last time. This one was different. No security footage. Just my father was sitting at his desk, hands folded, looking directly into the camera, and what he said changed everything. The final video started with static, then my father appeared, sitting alone. In the study. No suit. No mask. Just a tired man in a sweater too loose for his frame, hands folded like he was trying to hold himself together. I imagine, Isla, if you're watching this. I'm gone. And you've seen the first tape. He let out a dry laugh, hollow, unfamiliar. It chilled me more than any of the footage. I lied to protect her. And I lied to protect myself. But there was a second lie, one deeper than the body on the floor. He paused, looking down, then back at the camera. Charlotte didn't kill a stranger. I felt the blood drain from my face. The man she pushed, the man we buried without a name, he was your brother. I couldn't breathe. He was older than both of you. His name was Adam. I had him when I was barely out of college. His mother wasn't part of our world, and I made sure he never would be. I paid her to keep him away. But years later, when she passed, he came looking for me. He came to the house that night. He asked to meet Charlotte first. He thought she'd understand. My hands were shaking. He told her the truth. He said he was her half-brother. she thought he was lying. Or maybe she believed him and couldn't bear what that meant. Either way, she lost control. And when he hit the floor, I chose her. The screen flickered again, but his voice steadied. I should have gone to the police. But all I could think was, how would the world see the Alden name? How would people see me? So I made a choice. I destroyed the records. I paid off a coroner. I buried Adam twice, once in the ground, and once in silence. I stared at the screen, numb. I never told you, Isla, because I thought you'd hate me. And now I hope you do. I deserve that. But I also knew, you were the only one with enough spine to expose this. He leaned closer, that's why I left the decision to you. He reached under the desk and pulled out a thin folder. Inside this envelope are Adam's birth certificate, paternity test, and a photo of him at age 5, with me. The screen cut to black. I sat there in the silence for what felt like hours. Then I opened the folder. The photo showed a little boy with my eyes, holding my father's hand, smiling like he finally had someone. I broke not from grief. From rage, they erased him, they made him disposable. Charlotte didn't just kill a man, she killed her brother. My brother, and my father didn't just help cover it up, he made sure I lived in a house built on that silence. By morning, my decision was clear. I booked a meeting with a journalist I trusted. Someone who'd once written a piece on political corruption and had her life threatened for it. She knew how to handle sensitive material, and how to tell a story that couldn't be ignored. I gave her everything. The footage. The documents. The photo. She didn't ask why I wasn't going to the police, she just said, "Are you ready for what this could cost you?" I said yes, because I wasn't just telling the truth anymore, I was bringing Adam back into existence. And Charlotte? She was about to become a national headline, but what I didn't expect, what blindsided me, was the letter I received 2 days later. It was postmarked the day before my father died, no return address, just one sentence inside: if you go through with this, Isla, be ready to learn what else he kept from you. The handwriting wasn't his, it was hers. I stared at the letter in my hands for hours. The ink was smudged near the end, as if she'd hesitated before sealing it. If you go through with this, Isla, be ready to learn what else he kept from you. That was Charlotte's handwriting. No doubt. But it wasn't a threat, it was a warning. I should have stopped there. Should have let the truth I already had be enough. But that's the thing about lies, once they start unraveling, you can't help but pull until the whole world comes apart. I called Mr. Holloway. There's nothing else in the will, he said. But your father did leave a secondary file. Restricted. He instructed me to release it only if you came asking, after watching all the footage. I drove there within the hour. This time, there was no meeting in his office. No formalities. Just a sealed envelope and a flash drive. I took it home. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. Not anymore. After learning that Charlotte killed my brother, after watching my father erase a life with the flick of a match, nothing could hurt more than what I'd already seen. I thought, plugged in the flash drive, another video. My father again. This time, he looked older. Frailier. His voice cracked as he spoke. If you're watching this, you've chosen the truth. And I owe you all of it. He reached off screen and held up a piece of paper, a birth certificate. My name was at the top, but under mother, a name I didn't recognize, not my mother's, not the woman who raised me. You were born during an affair, he said. Your mother wasn't part of the family. I paid her to disappear. When she died, I brought you home. Told everyone you were adopted from a distant cousin. Even Charlotte didn't know the whole story. I went cold. I raised you because I felt responsible. Not because I loved you. And for that, I am truly sorry. His voice cracked. You always reminded me of her. And that made it hard. I treated you like a mistake. Because I couldn't forgive myself for the way you came into this world. I could barely breathe, but you were never the mistake. He took a long pause. She was Silence. I've watched you your whole life, Isla. You were stronger than me. Then Charlotte. Then anyone. And I punished you for that. He placed the birth certificate on the table. That's the last truth I have to give you. You're not just my daughter. You're the only one I never lied to in the end. The screen went black. I sat frozen, every truth I thought I knew shattered. My mother wasn't my mother. My sister wasn't my sister. My father raised me not out of love, but guilt. And I was the daughter of the woman he tried hardest to forget, but despite it all, I wasn't broken, because unlike Charlotte, I wasn't built on illusion. The article went live 2 days later. It exploded. Headlines, interviews, opinion pieces. Charlotte became the face of privilege corrupted. My father's legacy imploded. The Alden name would never carry weight again, only shame. People called me brave. Some called me a traitor. Others wanted to know if I forgave him. I didn't answer, because this story wasn't about forgiveness. It was about resurrection. Gave Adam his name back. I gave myself the truth, and I left Charlotte to sit in the ashes of the empire she helped destroy. She tried to call once. I didn't pick up, because the truth is, she was never my sister, and maybe I was never really an Alden, but I was finally free. Now it's your turn to decide if everything you believed about your family turned out to be a lie. Would you still protect them, or would you burn it all down just to feel the heat?